Hi, my name is David Laird Castleton, and I think I have something to share. A couple times I have felt a great deal of joy in sharing with individuals the story of how I met the Holy Spirit. And I, I just think that perhaps I should put this out there that others may benefit from this. So, moving on. I've I've had I've had friends and family from time to time uh, experience wonderful spiritual experiences, and I I think these are so important. They move our lives in a new direction. Sometimes they lift us up, and so that's a little bit of what I want to share right now with you. I've had a number of experiences since I was a little child. Um, uh, but for now, we'll just focus on the road that brought me to meet the Holy Spirit. One of the first things that happened was when I was 17, I was dating a girl, and I had a good friend, and was he was dating a girl. So the four of us were uh, dating, and it was a really good experience. Now my friend, Buddy, had he had lost a girlfriend. She had died in a car wreck. She she had been angry with him and just full of fury, and so she was with another man, and they were driving too fast, and there was a car accident, and she lost her life. Now, one of the very weird, strange things that happened is that while Buddy was dating this new girl, from time to time, suddenly, his old girlfriend would come back from the dead and enter this new girl, and start to argue with Buddy and get very angry with Buddy once again, starting up some of the old arguments that she and Buddy had had while she was alive. Now, this notice was understandably very upsetting to a lot of people and really freaked some of us out. It never happened while I was there. It happened about 3 or 4 times, and Buddy realized he simply could not see that girl ever again. So he stopped, and and the whole episodes stopped. But it left me wondering, and I later on talked to that girl who had been possessed by this angry spirit, and asked her what had happened, and she explained it to me. But it left me wondering about spirits, about the other side, and our relationship with God. And anyway, as time went by, I had my own set of trials. I had my own set of experiences. And I realized that some of my spiritual experiences were not from a very good source. I had several times found myself overcome by evil spirits. And it's not something I really want to dwell on too much, but just that I went through phases of where first it was shocking. I felt helpless. Gradually, I prayed for help, and I was rescued several times. Then it would happen again, and I knew I could be rescued, and so I wasn't so afraid. And without so much fear, I learned to look at this evil and feel sorry for it. And once I began to feel sorry for these evil spirits, they would even get more angry, and they didn't want to be around me. And pretty soon, I found myself loving them, wanting them to come to Jesus, wanting them to find the happiness that comes from being at peace with God. So they became less and less of a threat. Now these phases happened over like 10 or 15 years. I wasn't constantly besieged with these experiences. It's just that when they happened, they were very real, and they were pretty overwhelming at first. But the time came when every time that I was visited, and I would ask them to soften their stance, to turn to Christ, to try something that could bring them joy, and they would blow up, get upset, and they would leave me. I never made any progress with them. And over a few years, I finally decided I didn't want to have those experiences anymore. So when they came, I would immediately tell them, I love you. And love was not something they wanted. Love was something they found repulsive. And whenever I did that, they would leave. And so 3 or 4 times, the last 3 or 4 times they would come, I would say, I don't have time for you. They would get angry, and I would suddenly turn to them, and with all my heart I would say, I really love you, come to Christ. And immediately these evil spirits would leave. And after this one episode, I knelt down and I prayed, and I said, for 15 years, the only experiences I've had have been evil. I said, are there no other spirits? Is there nothing intelligent or happy or joyful? Are the only spirits that would be interested in me angry, evil, lying spirits? And then I quit the prayer and went on about my daily life. Well, a month or so later, I had a visitor, and he came in. These experiences all happened during the night. I would first of all, I would go through a deep sleep, and then I would come into a much lighter sleep, and where I was halfway aware of my surroundings, and I would feel or sense another being, and I would open up my heart, something right here I would open up, and a being would come in. Well, I felt the presence of a being, and so I opened my heart, and he entered, and it was only one. When the evil spirits had come, there had been like many or thousands, just too many to count. So this one spirit came into me, and it was like he had chores to do. He completely ignored me. He didn't try to communicate with me. He just started moving around inside me. And I turned to him. Probably I distracted him from whatever he was doing. And I said, I serve Christ. And I would say that to evil spirits because they would get upset with me if I said that. And that told me that they were evil. He ignored me. Didn't upset him at all that I served Christ. Well, that was very interesting. So I followed him around some more, moving around inside me. And I said to him finally, how are you with Christ? Suddenly, he turned, he faced me, and it was like a bomb of power and glory went off. And it wasn't just he said he was fine. It was that he said he was fine with all the power of his heart. And it was beyond anything I could handle it. Basically, I don't know if I blacked out, but it put me back spiritually into a corner, and then he left. And that was just a mind-blowing experience. Well, a little while later, I had been reading A Course in Miracles. And in the Course, now the Course in Miracles, I happen to know, comes from Jesus. When I read the first paragraph of A Course in Miracles, before I had finished it, I knew that this was Jesus talking. Now, there wasn't some energy, there wasn't anything that, zapped me with lightning. It was like when your mom or your dad calls you on the phone, you recognize their voice. So I recognize Jesus Christ, but I don't know Jesus Christ. At least this mind and this experience, this 50 years of experience, has not had anything consciously to do with Jesus Christ. But somehow, some way, I have a memory that's buried deep inside me that knows Jesus Christ. And when I read A Course in Miracles, I recognized, oh, this is Jesus Christ. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is Jesus Christ. So in studying A Course in Miracles, there's a part of the Course somewhere in there, and someone who knows the Course in Miracles better than I can tell you where it says, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, it says that every experience we have is something that we've asked for, something that we wanted, something that we planned for ourselves with the guidance of God and the Holy Spirit. Now, when I read that, I don't know about everybody else, but I've had some experiences that were so painful that I would have rather died than passed through them. I'm not suicidal, but I'm just saying that as I was going through these experiences, they were so painful that I think that ending my life would have been less painful than passing through those experiences. And I just, there was a girl I loved, I lost, and for over a year, maybe 2 years after I lost her, I had trouble breathing. And if someone said her name, it sent chills and shocks through my body. And I could not bear that pain. And I now it doesn't bother me. But at the time it was incredibly painful. So when I read that part in the Course in Miracles, it said that everything I've experienced, everything that I'm having happen in my life is something I chose and that I wanted. I put the book down, I closed it. I didn't care if it came from Jesus Christ. There's no way I could accept that. And I went back to watching TV and screwing around and doing nothing of worth. And I was just angry at the book for saying that. And I just could not accept that at all. So a month or two goes by. I've calmed down. I'm not thinking about it very much. I have not gone back to the book. And I feel a spirit knocking on my chest. This is again early in the morning. And I open up my heart, and she doesn't, or he doesn't. I think it felt feminine. So the spirit does not come in. And I said, I serve Jesus Christ. And the spirit grew brighter and closer and more lovely. And I could sense a glory and a beauty about this being. And I said to the being, I know that Jesus wrote A Course in Miracles. Well, the spirit grew brighter and grew closer. I could feel the warmth. But I really wanted to embrace this spirit. And it just was just out of reach. I couldn't touch it. But I wouldn't close my chest on it, against it either. So once more, I rummaged around in my mind for something I could say. And then I remembered the part about everything that happens, something that we've chosen, that we asked, that we wanted to happen to ourselves. And I kind of resigned myself to the truth of that principle. And I said, I know that everything that happens to me was something I chose and asked for. And the Holy Spirit has given it to me as I asked. Well, suddenly this being embraced me with all the love in her heart, and I was thrilled to embrace her back. And then she was gone, and that was the end of that experience. But it woke me up, and I went back to reading A Course in Miracles. And went back to accepting some of those principles that are so hard to live by. Well, that still wasn't the Holy Spirit. So I'm reading A Course in Miracles, and I don't remember if it was before or after I discovered Regina Dawn Akers, but at one point, as I'm reading A Course in Miracles, I feel something knock on the chest. Well, it's not while I'm, obviously this is during the night. But I have gone back to her studying the book from time to time, working on its principles, memorizing a few things here and there. And late one night, or early one morning rather, I felt a being at my chest. And I opened up my heart, and there was a being more beautiful, more simple, more glorious than anything I had ever perceived before. And I said to it, wait, I know you. I know you. And it's like I was pulling a memory from beyond the time when I was born or something. But this memory came back, and I said, you're the Holy Spirit. And his whole being smiled. And when I say smiled, I don't mean this smile. I mean his whole heart, his whole being brightened with joy at gladness that I recognized him, and he gently enfolded me in his love. And it was beyond any beautiful experience I'd ever had before. And then he gently left me. And of course, again, I woke up going, wow, this was fabulous. Well, he began to visit from time to time. About every 2 or 3 months, he would come and visit me. And he never spoke to me. And I never asked him for anything, and I never tried to make him speak. Just a hug from him was the most wonderful gift in the world. Because, when we hug with our bodies and our arms, that's a wonderful thing. But if your heart, if your spirit could go past your body and hug another spirit and share the love that's in your heart with another heart, that just, I don't know how to describe it, but that's what was happening, and that's what I enjoyed with the Holy Spirit. Now when at one point, I went to Guatemala to visit my parents. They were on a Mormon mission in Guatemala. And while I was there one Sunday morning, early in the morning, the Holy Spirit came to visit me. And he hugged me and he shared with me so much brightness and glory and goodness. And then he left, and I woke up for a minute, and then I drowsily went back to sleep. It was probably 3:30 in the morning. A few minutes later, he came again, and he did it again. And again it woke me up, and I was just stunned, and it left me exhausted. So he leaves, and I'm tired and exhausted just from having met him, and I go back to sleep. And then he came a third time. He knew what was going to happen, and I think that's why he came 3 times. Anyway, he gave me a wonderful hug, and once again, I enjoyed all the glory and the love and the goodness and the perfection and beauty that is the Holy Spirit. And for just a few seconds, he and I were one. And then he was gone. And when I woke up after the third time, it was now 6:30, 7:30 in the morning. I sat on the edge of my bed and I said, what can I do? How can I pay you back? I want to give as you have given to me. And I was told once again that I should pursue a magazine or writing articles. and communicating what God had done for me. This may sound funny, but when I had done that, I had tried to do that in the past, and I had angered and infuriated people who were close to me, and people who weren't close to me never responded and never showed any interest. So here I am once more trying a new media. There have been other things and other spiritual experiences, and I'll probably discuss them later. But the only other thing I want to say is, in addition to this, is that years before all of this happened, while I was working in the hospital up at the University of Utah, the Holy Spirit came to visit me, but he didn't come into my heart. I was laying half asleep on my bed, and I felt something enter my feet. And as it gently came into my feet, I could hear every cell of my body crying out with joy. And as it gradually moved up my legs, I felt my heels lift off the bed. And then as it moved up past my knees and past my hip, each part that it reached, I felt lift up. And I at the time I was dreaming this, I believed it was a dream, except that when it reached my shoulders, it lifted my shoulders off the bed. And when it lifted my shoulders off the bed, I felt my head swing back, and I heard my hair scrape across the bed. And at that point, I knew it was real. And when it reached my brain, I blacked out. And when I came to, I was surprised because it seemed that my memory was better and many of my mental functions just seemed to have moved up a notch. So I believe that was the Holy Spirit. But I honestly want to say his heart-to-heart hugs are far and away beyond that experience. And I know the Holy Spirit's real. I know that he speaks through Regina Dawn Akers, and her thoughts of awakening, her interpretation of the New Testament thrills me, and it's my old friend the Holy Spirit speaking through her, and I hope someday he comes back. He hasn't been back since that day when he came 3 times, that Sunday morning when he visited me 3 times. I miss it. I remember one of the last things I thought on that day was, I want to have this experience in broad daylight. I want to open up my own heart to him and feel him in broad daylight. That's still a goal, but I wish if all I'm allowed is a visit during the night, I would give anything for that again. Anyway, just wanted to share this with you, and I hope it benefits you in some way, and I hope the Holy Spirit visits you too. From what I understand, he visits all of us. He just is very good at camouflaging himself. I'll let you go with these thoughts, and God bless you.